went ahead and looked at the Theme 5 reading test. And these were the 4 skills that stood out. These are review skills for us, but I did want to take a second to review before you go into Think Central and take that Theme 5 test that's in there. So all of these words should look familiar to you because we talked about these words, these skills throughout the first 3 quarters that you were with me. And so none of them should be something that you don't know about. I also did go ahead and pull a couple of the small group papers that we used to use to practice these skills. So this first one, inferences. Inferences is taking what the author says or what the words say in the story, combining it with your prior knowledge or with what you already know, and coming up with a new thought. Another name for this skill is drawing conclusions. And you do it all the time, whether you are aware of it or not. We did practice it when we did lit circles. And we did talk about it a lot in small group or just in conversation when we were reading. I would stop and I would say, make an inference, and you would make a very educated guess based on what the author was telling you and what you already know. So that one is what we would use for inferences. That's a really quick review. Sequencing we've been doing, like I said, for a very long time. In fact, the most recent one that we did was when we wrote a how-to in writing, and we all practiced writing a how-to on how to make a peanut butter sandwich, and then you all practiced giving us a sequence of events for a how-to of your own. But we also look at sequencing when we're reading and telling events in order. So the next skill, author's purpose. Remember, there are 4 purposes that an author has for writing. We use the word pie with 2 E's, P-I-E-E, to remember what the 4 purposes an author has for writing. We talked a lot about persuade, trying to get somebody else to agree with you or change their mind. In that writing, the author will prove its case, talk about all of the positive reasons why you should agree with them. A lot of politics. We'll hear a lot of persuasive ads during political seasons. And so persuade is trying to get somebody to agree with you. Inform is just giving the facts. These are your nonfiction. I have an example here, probably real close. This would be a nonfiction. This would be a book that's written informational. You might get entertainment out of it, so it might have a double purpose, but we would say that the author wrote this to inform you about a person. Entertain, stories that are fictional, made up characters, something that maybe makes you laugh. I have an example of one that I'm going to read today that would be to entertain. It's titled A Gold Star for Zog. And so it was written solely for you to enjoy a story. It's not true. They're fun to read, and they have a character and a setting in them. And then there's the explain, which would kind of go back to the how-to. Or no, yeah. Did I say how-to? No, I'm sorry. Would go back to the sequence. Wow. It would go back to the sequencing, and it would give you in order explaining how to do something. Even though I wasn't relating those skills, I was thinking about how we talked about the step-by-step way to make a peanut butter sandwich for sequencing would also go along with the explain, giving directions, instructions. MapQuest will do this if you're trying to get to your friend's house, which we would probably all like to do about now, since we've been stuck in our own homes without play dates for about a month now. So anyway, that is explain if it tells you how to do something. Okay, so today I would like to read A Gold Star for Zog, and I would like you thinking about these 4 skills while we're reading. And I will try to remember to stop and ask you, first of all, author's purpose. Author's purpose, we talked about just a little bit, that it would really be this to entertain. It's not a true story. It's going to make us happy or make us laugh. It's going to be fun to read, and I want you listening for the characters and the setting. A gold star for Zog. Madam Dragon ran to school many moons ago. She taught young dragons all the things that dragons need to know. Zog, the biggest dragon, was the keenest one by far. He tried his hardest every day to win a golden star. All the dragons in year 1 were learning how to fly. "Hi," said Madam Dragon, "way up in the sky." Now that you've been shown, you can practice on your own, and you'll all be expert flyers by the time you're fully grown. Zog went off to practice flying fast and free. He soared and swooped and looped the loop, then crashed into a tree. Poor Zog. Just then a little girl came by. "Oh, please don't cry," she said. "Perhaps you'd like a nice sticky bandage for your head." "What a good idea," said Zog. Then up and off he flew, his band-aid gleaming pinkly as he zigzagged through the blue. A year went by, and in year 2, the dragons learned to roar. "More," said Madam Dragon, "louder, I implore. Now that you've been shown, you can practice on your own, and you'll all be champion roarers by the time you're fully grown." And I want to go back to this very last skill that I didn't talk about. We do context clues all the time when we're doing our vocabulary. We write that word from our story in context, and context clues give us information about an unknown word. By using the words around it, we can probably figure out the meaning of that word. So I want to take you right here to the first 2 lines of this page that I just read. A year went by, and in year 2, the dragons learned to roar. "More," said Madam Dragon, "louder, I implore." So I want you to think about that word implore. It's not one that I heard you use in your everyday vocabulary, nor do I use it in my everyday vocabulary, but I want you to think about what that word might mean. I want you to think about the words around it, what Madam Dragon is trying to say there, and I want you to really get a good idea in your head, and then I want you to look that word up later and see if you're right as far as the meaning of that word. Okay. Zog went off to practice. He roared with fearsome force. He kept it up for hours on end, but then his throat grew hoarse. Just then the girl came by again. She said, "What rotten luck. Perhaps you'd like a nice, soothing peppermint to suck." "What a good idea," said Zog. Then up and off he flew, and breathing fumes of peppermint, he zigzagged through the blue. You're thinking about sequencing, because this story is happening in order: first, then, next, finally. A year went by, and in year 3, the dragons learned to blow. "No," said Madam Dragon, "breathe out fire, not snow. Now that you've been shown, you can practice on your own, and you'll all be breathing bonfires by the time you're fully grown." Zog went off to practice. He blew with all his might. He twirled around in triumph, and his wing tip caught a light. Think about that word, a light, not one that I use every day, but what's happening in this story and what's happening on this page, and what do you think that a light might mean? and then look it up and see if you are correct. That would be using context clues. Just then the girl came by again. She said, "You poor old thing. Perhaps you'd like a nice stretchy bandage for your wing." "What a good idea," said Zog. Then up and off he flew, his bandage flapping wildly as he zigzagged through the blue. All the year 4 dragons were learning. Can you guess? "Yes," said Madam Dragon, "how to capture a princess." Now that you've been shown you can practice on your own, you'll need to capture hundreds by the time you're fully grown. Zog went off to practice. He tried and tried and tried, but he simply couldn't manage. "I'm no good at this," he cried. "I'll never win a golden star." Just then he saw the girl. "Perhaps," she said, "you'd like to capture me. I'm Princess Pearl." "What a good idea," said Zog. Then up and off they flew, the princess gripping tightly as they zigzagged through the blue. "Ah," said Madam Dragon, "our first princess so far. Congratulations, Zog, my dear, you've won a golden star." Zog was proud and happy, and Pearl felt good as well. She took the dragon's temperatures and nursed them when they fell. A year went by, and in year 5, the dragons learned to fight. "Right," said Madam Dragon, "here comes a real live knight." Up spoke the knight. "My name," he said, "is Gadabout the Great. I've come to rescue Princess Pearl. I hope I'm not too late." Zog breathed fire and beat his wings. "You can't, she's mine," he roared. "Oh, no, she's not," yelled Gadabout, and waved his trusty sword. The other dragons crowded round and watched them all agog. Who was going to win the fight, Sir Gadabout or Zog? Think about agog. Hopefully that's a real word. I'm thinking what I know they meant it to mean in the story, but what do you think it means in this story? Watched them all agog. Then Princess Pearl stepped forward, crying, "Stop, you silly chumps! The world's already far too full of cuts and burns and bumps. Don't rescue me. I won't go back to being a princess and prancing round the palace in a silly, frilly dress. I want to be a doctor and travel here and there, listening to people's chests and giving them my care." "Me too," exclaimed the knight and took his helmet off his head. "I'd rather wear a nice twisty stethoscope," he said. "Perhaps, Princess, you'll train me up." And Pearl replied, "Of course, but I don't see how the two of us could fit upon your horse." Okay. Make an inference. What's happening in the story? What's the author telling you? So you're kind of even making a prediction or drawing a conclusion, making an inference about what's going to happen. They won't both fit on the horse. She's helped Zog a whole lot. Then Zog said, "Flying doctors, I'd love to join the crew." Is that what you were thinking? "But if you'll let me be your ambulance, then I can carry you." "Bravo," said Madam Dragon, "an excellent career." And all the year 5 dragons gave a loud resounding cheer. Then Madam Dragon told the horse, "I really hope you'll stay. I'll let you be my pupil's pet and feed you lots of hay." "What a good idea," said Zog. Then up and off he flew, the flying doctors waving as they zigzagged through the blue. Is that what you thought was going to happen? You made a good inference. Okay, so I'm thinking that as we read that, we covered inference, we covered sequence. It did definitely go through a sequence of events, year 1 through year 5. So you could break it down and say, in year 1, this, next, year 2, this, finally, year 5, after you get through all of them. And so sequence, or you could break it down and you could really tell that story in 7, 8, 9 different events. As long as you're in order, you're telling it in sequence. The author's purpose we talked about already for this, in this case, wasn't trying to persuade you to do anything. Wasn't trying to persuade Zog to become a doctor's ambulance. It was definitely just to entertain. And then we talked about those context clues. I want you to go back and look up when you get a chance. Those are really the skills besides character, setting, and plot that I pulled out. And we could talk about character. The setting, obviously, is the place the story is taking place. The characters are who's in the story. And the plot are the events that's the sequence. It goes hand in hand. Plot, events, and sequence are really the same thing. And so that was the only other skill I really pulled out of that Theme 5 test. So I'm going to have you watch this video and then go to Teams. Nope, I take it back. Go to Think Central, and the Theme 5 test will be there for you today or tomorrow if you'd rather wait and take it tomorrow. I don't know if you're getting the day off or not. That's up to your teachers. Okay, that's it.